Well, early voting for the June primary begins this Saturday, and one of the marquee races locally is for the 61st Senate District seat. Joining us side's junior political reporter Nate Benson is following that for us tonight. And Nate, some pretty heavy punches are being thrown in this primary fight, right?
Yeah, that's right, Scott. Incumbent and party chairman Jeremy Zellner is in a fierce battle with Assemblymember John Rivera, and everything from experience to everyday prices for utilities to mentioning Carl Palladino is being used to convince voters ahead of primary day. Now that the budget logjam is over in Albany, Senator Zellner and Assemblyman Rivera are back in town with the last thrush of campaigning ahead of the start of early voting this Saturday.
We're talking to voters every single day. I'm knocking on doors. I'm out in the community now that we're back from Albany. We feel like we've got a really strong message of the work that we've accomplished in just 4 short months.
Honestly, the connection that we've made with residents in the district has been fantastic. You know, we've had folks every day out in the doors. When I'm not in Albany, I'm on the doors.
Experience seems to be playing a factor in this election, with the Rivera campaign pegging Zellner as someone who does not understand Albany.
The reason my opponent didn't have much successes to hang his hat on is because, you know, how to conduct yourself as a lawmaker and how to you move and operate as a lawmaker eludes him. And, you know, I've shown that I know how to do it.
In turn, Senator Zellner highlights some of the work he's accomplished in just 4 months.
We've co-sponsored transformational legislation like the moratorium, like New York for All, the New York Health Act. We really are pushing back and fighting what's happening from the federal government attacking our state. And I think, you know, our record is going to speak for itself as what we've been able to accomplish for the community.
But Rivera has his own accomplishments he wants voters to keep in mind.
I've, you know, really pushed on what's really turned into tens of millions of dollars, I think, just in projects, just in the district. The Hispanic Heritage Cultural Center comes to mind, the Rec Center in the Village of Hamburg, just, you know, a lot of great successes in spaces that people need them.
Perhaps the biggest topic impacting voters, at least on an everyday basis, utility costs that continue to skyrocket. Rivera and Zellner say they've passed legislation that provides utility relief and transparency to the 61st District.
I passed a bill just last year that essentially required utility companies to disclose on utility bills exactly what's charged to people. Because what we're finding is that, you know, you get your national grid bill, your national fuel bill, and you just say, well, it's this amount and this is what we're paying this month. But you don't have a sense of like how much of it is fees, how much of it is sort of surcharges.
And we voted on a package of bills to bring transparency and curb the amount of profit that utility companies can earn from taxpayers, to cut what they can spend their money on from taxpayers and ratepayers. So we really worked a lot on getting utility transparency in the budget this year, and I think that's going to go a long way to save money.
And if discussing bills that have passed or experiences don't do the trick for voters, both candidates are relying on a strategy that Democrats have used year in and year out.
Carl Palladino bankrolled the machine. Jeremy Zellner is the machine and has run it for over a decade.
The truth? It's John Rivera who ran campaigns bankrolled by Carl Palladino. Jeremy Zellner took on Palladino.
Both you and John have kind of been bringing up the Carl Palladino thing. Why?
Well, it's really disappointing. You know, my opponent started his campaign with 3 straight full negative full-size mailers nailing me for something that he's just really misleading and lying to people about. And then he went on TV nailing me with the same stuff. So we have to respond, you know.
In the case of the Rivera campaign, that Palladino ad was bought and paid for by the Latino Victory Fund NYC, and not an official ad by Rivera himself. But he stands by the message. Why is he still being talked about in an election in 2026?
Yeah, I mean, I see it's sort of 2 reasons. Number one, it's not just Carl Palladino. You know, I've called out my opponent for accepting money from Sheriff Garcia as well. And, you know, Jeremy has a long history of engaging with Republicans in strange ways, despite being the chair of the Democratic Party. We see it in how judges are elected, but we see it in how our sheriff has been elected now twice. We see it in other ways in towns all across this county where, for some reason, there's this ongoing relationship that he has with the Republican Party.
The fact is, my opponent has made it the cornerstone of his campaign to lie and mislead about my record and the things that have happened 11 years ago as if it was happening right now. So we're really working hard to get our message out, let folks know the real story about it, and that my opponent and his family were the ones taking money from Carl Palladino directly at that time as well.
Now, Now, obviously, I could go on and on with both candidates, and I will this Friday night at 9 p.m. on WGRZ Plus during this week's edition of On the Agenda with me. As for early voting, that begins Saturday morning. We have information posted about that right now on WGRZ.com. On your side, Nate Benson, Channel 2 News.